The moment I saw the message on her phone, my world came crashing down. I stood there, frozen, unable to breathe as I read her words. My hubby is rich, but he's a simp. Wait till he finds out what we've been doing. I've got a surprise for both of us. My heart dropped. Was this really happening? My wife, Emily, had always been so perfect in my eyes, beautiful, caring, my rock. But this? This was a betrayal so deep, it felt like a punch to the gut. I didn't move, didn't speak. I couldn't. The silence in the room was deafening. She was sitting right there on the couch, scrolling through her phone, completely unaware of the storm brewing in my mind. But I wasn't about to let her get away with it. Not this time. I had to know who this guy was. The one she called a boy toy. The one she was planning her next move with right under my nose. I stepped back quietly, but every ounce of me wanted to confront her right then and there. But no. I had to stay calm. I needed answers. So, I waited and watched. Every second felt like an eternity. The minutes felt like hours as I stood silently, replaying her words over and over in my mind. My hubby is rich, but he's a simp. Those words were a dagger to my chest. I thought I knew Emily. We had been together for years, built a life together. Yet here she was, mocking me, talking about me like I was nothing more than a fool. I could hear her voice in the other room, still laughing and texting. The casualness of it made the betrayal sting even more. How long had she been hiding this? How long had she been seeing him? The more I thought about it, the more anger started to bubble up inside me. I couldn't let it go. Not this time. I needed to confront her, but I had to be smart about it. Rushing in with anger would only push her further away. I had to stay calm. But deep down, I felt like I was running out of time. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. As I walked back toward the living room, I couldn't help but wonder who this boy toy was. Who could possibly make my wife betray me so easily? I needed answers, and I wasn't going to let her manipulate me with excuses. She had no idea that I knew the truth. When I walked into the living room, Emily didn't look up from her phone. She was still smiling, texting away like everything was perfectly normal. How could she be so nonchalant? How could she look me in the eye after everything I just saw? I cleared my throat, trying to keep my voice steady. Emily, who is this guy you're texting? She looked up at me, a slight flicker of surprise crossing her face, but she quickly masked it with a smile. What do you mean? She asked, her tone too sweet, too rehearsed. I took a step closer, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't want to accuse her, but I wasn't about to sit back and let her lie to my face anymore. I'm talking about the guy you're texting, Emily. The one you call your boy toy. Her face paled for a split second, and I could see her mind racing, trying to come up with an excuse. But I wasn't going to let her. Not this time. She set her phone down and looked at me with a forced smile. David, you're overreacting. It's just a friend. You know how I like to joke around. That's all. I couldn't believe my ears. Just a friend? A friend who made fun of me behind my back? A friend who made her think she could talk to me like I was some kind of idiot? My anger was bubbling up, but I held it in. I wanted the truth. I needed the truth. Don't lie to me, Emily, I said, my voice steady but firm. I saw the message. I saw what you said. And don't tell me it's just a joke, because I know it's not. You've been seeing someone behind my back, haven't you? Her eyes flickered for a moment, but she quickly regained her composure. David, you're being paranoid. Why are you so worked up over nothing? You're just imagining things. I felt a rush of frustration. How could she sit there and lie like this? I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't overreacting. The proof was right in front of me. And yet, she still tried to play it off like it was nothing. You're really going to sit there and tell me this is nothing? I asked, my voice rising slightly. Emily, this isn't just a joke. I'm your husband, and you've been texting someone else like I don't even exist. She shifted in her seat, a nervous laugh escaping her lips. David, you're being ridiculous. I've never done anything wrong. You're just looking for something to be upset about. That was it. I couldn't hold it in any longer. The rage that had been building up inside me finally boiled over. You think I'm an idiot? You think I don't see what's going on here? I'm not stupid, Emily. You've been hiding things from me. You've been lying. And now I find out you're calling me a simp behind my back. How long has this been going on? Her eyes went wide, but she didn't respond. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. She knew she had been caught. She knew I wasn't buying her excuses anymore. I stepped closer, not giving her a chance to hide. Who is he, Emily? Who is this guy you've been seeing? I want to know everything. She swallowed hard, her eyes darting around the room as if looking for an escape. She tried to stand up, but I wasn't about to let her avoid the truth. Finally, she sighed, her voice laced with annoyance. It's none of your business, David. You're being dramatic. I've told you already, it's nothing. That was the moment I realized it wasn't just the affair that hurt me. It was the disrespect. The way she could look me in the eyes and lie without a second thought. The way she thought I would just accept her lies and move on. And for the first time, I felt truly betrayed. This wasn't just an affair. This was the end of the person I thought I knew. Emily wasn't the woman I married anymore. She was someone else, someone who didn't care about me at all. The silence between us was deafening. Her words hung in the air like a veil of lies that I could no longer ignore. It's none of your business, David. Those words echoed in my mind. She said it with such ease, like it was perfectly normal for her to dismiss everything we'd built together. I stood there, staring at her, unable to believe the woman I loved could be so cold, so indifferent. My chest felt tight, like someone was squeezing the life out of me. I couldn't let her walk away from this. Not like that. Not after everything she had done. How long, Emily? I asked, my voice low but intense. How long have you been seeing him? How long have you been lying to me? She hesitated for a moment, her face softening just enough for me to see a flicker of guilt in her eyes. But it didn't last. The mask quickly slipped back into place, and she crossed her arms, a defensive posture, as if she were trying to protect herself from the truth. You're blowing this way out of proportion, she said, her voice trembling slightly. I don't owe you any explanations. I don't need to justify anything to you. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This wasn't the Emily I knew, the woman I thought I could trust with everything. This was a stranger standing in front of me, someone who had no respect for our relationship, someone who cared more about keeping her secrets than being honest with me. Are you serious? I asked, my voice rising despite my best efforts to remain calm. You've been cheating on me, and I'm the one who's blowing things out of proportion? You don't owe me an explanation? What about the vows we made? What about the life we built? Her eyes narrowed as she stood up, an annoyed sneer forming on her lips. Vows? Oh, please. We've been together for years, David. You really think this is the first time? You've been so wrapped up in your work, so busy with your stupid YouTube videos, that you didn't even notice I was drifting away. Don't act like you didn't know. The words hit me like a slap in the face. She was right in one way. I had been distracted, but that didn't give her the right to betray me, to talk to me like I was some kind of failure. I thought I was giving her everything she wanted, everything she needed. And this is how she repaid me. Don't you dare blame me for your mistakes, I said, my fist clenching at my sides. I worked my ass off to provide for us, Emily. And this is what I get? This is how you repay me. I took a step forward, closing the distance between us. Her defiance was infuriating, but I couldn't back down now. Who is he? I demanded again. Who is the man you've been seeing behind my back? I'm done with your lies. I need to know everything. Her lips curled into a smirk, a look I had never seen on her before. It was as if she found the whole thing amusing, like I was just a character in her game. And that realization hit me harder than any of her words. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't even guilty. She was enjoying this, enjoying watching me unravel. I'm not telling you anything, she snapped. You wouldn't understand. You never have. You're just too busy with your little world to even notice what was happening. It was like a light bulb went off in my mind. All this time, I had been so consumed with my own world, working, creating, trying to build something bigger, that I had neglected the one thing that truly mattered, my relationship, my marriage. I had thought that as long as I provided for us, everything else would fall into place. But it didn't. Emily needed more than that. And apparently, she had found someone else to give it to her. A surge of anger and betrayal washed over me. I had been a fool to think that everything was fine, that the woman I loved would never hurt me like this. But here I was, standing face to face with the truth. She had been seeing someone else, and it wasn't just a fling. It was an affair. She had been planning it, hiding it, and now she was openly dismissing me as if I didn't matter. You think I don't care? I said, my voice breaking with a mix of fury and disbelief. You think I don't feel the pain of everything you've done? I trusted you, Emily. I loved you. And this is what you've done to me. She didn't even flinch. Instead, she rolled her eyes and sighed. You're being so dramatic. You're acting like this is some huge betrayal, like I haven't told you a million times that I need more from you. But you're too busy with your videos, your money. You never have time for me. Maybe I found someone who actually sees me for who I am. Her words cut deep. They were a reminder of all the times she had complained about me being too focused on my work, too busy to notice her needs. But what hurt more was the fact that, Despite all my efforts, she still chose someone else. Someone she called a boy toy. Fine, I said, stepping back, trying to control the whirlwind of emotions inside me. If you want him, then go be with him. I'm done begging for someone's love who doesn't even care enough to tell the truth. For the first time, she seemed to hesitate, a brief flicker of guilt in her eyes, but it was gone in an instant. She quickly recovered, her eyes narrowing again, her smirk reappearing. I don't need your permission, David. And I don't need your approval. You can't control me anymore. I felt like the ground was slipping away beneath my feet. There was no more love in her words, no more care. This wasn't a relationship anymore. It was a battlefield. Her words rang in my ears as if she were trying to drive a knife deeper into my heart. I don't need your permission, David. I don't need your approval. Every syllable felt like a final blow, and the anger that had been simmering inside me for so long now exploded like a dam breaking open. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I had tried so hard to keep my composure, to stay calm, but now I was done. You don't need my permission? I echoed, stepping closer to her, unable to contain my frustration. You think you can just walk all over me? You think you can just throw everything away like it means nothing? She didn't flinch. She didn't even look scared. She stood there, arms crossed, like she was daring me to do something. But I wasn't the kind of guy to hit her or do something stupid. No, my anger wasn't about violence. It was about the sheer betrayal. The way she had treated me like I was disposable. And that hurt more than anything. You've made a fool of me, Emily, I said through gritted teeth. I've given you everything. Everything I have. And this is how you repay me? By lying, by cheating, by making a fool out of me in front of some guy who means nothing. She scoffed, the look of disdain in her eyes cutting deeper than anything I had felt. Stop acting like you're some saint, David. You're not. You've been so busy with your YouTube channel, your money, your little empire, you didn't even care about me. I tried telling you, I tried begging you to see me, but all you cared about was that stupid screen. And now you're going to act like I'm the one who's wrong. The words hit harder than any physical blow. She was right in some ways. I had been so absorbed in building my career, I had neglected the one thing that truly mattered, the woman I loved. The woman I thought I knew. The woman who, just a few years ago, had been everything to me. But that didn't give her the right to do what she had done. It didn't give her the right to tear apart our lives just because she was unhappy. I wasn't perfect, I said, my voice trembling with a mixture of pain and anger. But I never lied to you. I never cheated. I never gave up on us. And you went behind my back, lied, and disrespected everything we had. You destroyed it, Emily. Her eyes glinted with something I couldn't place. It wasn't regret. It wasn't sadness. It was something far colder. You're right, she said slowly, her voice dripping with bitterness. I did destroy it. But it wasn't just me, was it? You destroyed it, too. You just didn't have the guts to see it. I stared at her, trying to process the words she just said. She was blaming me for everything. She was trying to make me believe that this was my fault. And I could feel it, that old, familiar feeling, the one where I questioned my own worth, my own actions. But not this time. Not anymore. No, I said firmly, shaking my head. You don't get to turn this around on me, Emily. You made your choices. You decided to betray me, to lie, to cheat. And now you have to live with the consequences. She took a step back, her arms still crossed, her expression unreadable. For a moment, I thought I saw a flash of something guilt, maybe, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared. Consequences, she scoffed. Oh, please. You act like I'm some kind of villain in your story, but the truth is, you were never there for me. You don't get to play the victim now. The words cut through me like a knife. How could she still be so heartless? How could she sit there, blaming me for her mistakes, for her lies, for her affair? I had been giving everything I had, and she still had the nerve to say I wasn't enough? I felt like I was losing control. My whole life, everything I had worked so hard for, was crumbling before my eyes, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. I thought back to when we first met, when we first fell in love. It all felt so distant now, so far removed from the cruel reality of the woman standing in front of me. I don't care what you think anymore, I said, my voice steady, even though my heart was breaking. You've made your bed, Emily. Now lie in it. She sneered at me, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. You think I need you, David? You think I care about anything you have to say anymore? You've been so wrapped up in yourself, so obsessed with your own little world. But you know what? I'm done. I'm done with you. Her words hit me like a punch to the stomach. I had never seen her like this before. This wasn't the woman I had married. This wasn't the woman I had promised to spend my life with. She had become someone I didn't even recognize, a stranger. And it hurt more than I could put into words. I stood there, silent, unable to find the words to respond. What was left to say? She had already made up her mind. She had already chosen the life she wanted, and it wasn't with me. I'm leaving, David, she said, turning away from me. You'll be fine. You'll get over this, just like you always do. You'll find someone else. You always do. I watched as she grabbed her bag, walking out of the door without looking back. And just like that, everything was over. She was gone. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I had loved, was walking out of my life. The weight of it hit me all at once. I didn't know what to feel: anger, sadness, relief, confusion. It was all too much. But deep down, I knew one thing for certain. This was the end of something. And whether I was ready for it or not, it was time to move on. The door slammed behind her with a finality that echoed in my chest. Emily was gone, and everything that had once been so certain, so stable, now felt like a fragile illusion shattered into pieces. I stood there in the quiet of the room, still trying to wrap my head around the reality of what had just happened. The anger, the betrayal, it all swirled inside me like a storm I couldn't escape. The apartment felt emptier without her presence. It wasn't just the silence, it was the absence of her. For so long, I had thought we were building something strong. But now, I realized it had all been a lie. My mind kept replaying everything she had said, the way she dismissed me, the way she blamed me for things I hadn't done. It was clear now. She had already made her decision. She was already gone, even before she physically left. I couldn't stop the flood of emotions that poured over me. I wanted to scream, to hit something, to make it all stop. But there was a part of me that also felt numb, like I had already gone through the worst of it. And yet, even in the silence that followed, I knew there were more questions left unanswered. The whole thing didn't add up. Why had she done this? What was it about me that made her think she needed someone else? I grabbed my phone and sat down on the couch, the weight of everything still sinking in. I couldn't just let it go. I couldn't let her win by simply disappearing, leaving me with nothing but the scraps of our life together. I needed answers. I needed closure. I scrolled through the messages on my phone, pausing when I saw the unknown number from earlier. The one who had sent me that photo. Hey, man, I'm sorry about what's going on, but she's been playing you for a fool. Who was this guy? Why had he reached out to me? I had to know. I typed a quick reply, my fingers shaking with the anger that still boiled beneath the surface. Who are you? And why are you texting me? It only took a minute before the response came through. Look, I don't want any trouble, but you need to know that your wife's been cheating on you for a while. I'm just trying to make sure you understand what's been going on behind your back. My heart skipped a beat. The truth was sinking in. She hadn't just strayed once. She had been seeing this guy for a long time. The pieces were starting to fall into place, but it only made everything worse. The anger inside me grew even more intense. How long has this been going on? I typed back, my mind racing. I needed to know how deep this went. How much of our life together had been a lie. The reply came back quickly, almost too quickly. A few months. I didn't want to get involved, but when I saw how she was using you, it didn't sit right with me anymore. A few months. She had been doing this behind my back for months. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. All those late nights, all the moments I thought were just her needing space or work. It had been all lies. She had been building a life with someone else. I set the phone down for a moment, the reality of it all crashing over me. A part of me still wanted to call her, to confront her, but I knew that wouldn't change anything. She had made her choice. She had already chosen him. And no matter what I said, it wouldn't bring her back. I stood up and paced around the room, trying to clear my mind. What was I supposed to do now? How was I supposed to move forward? It felt like everything I knew had crumbled in an instant. The trust, the love, everything. All gone. But there was something inside me that refused to stay down for long. There had to be a way out of this. I had to find a way to rebuild myself, to move on from the wreckage of my marriage. This wasn't the end of me. It couldn't be. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door, not even sure where I was going, just needing to escape the confines of the apartment for a while. The street outside was dark, the city lights reflecting off the pavement like distant stars. I walked aimlessly, not caring where I went. I didn't have the answers, and I didn't have a plan, but I knew I had to start somewhere. My phone buzzed again. It was another message from the unknown number. Look, I don't want to make things worse for you. I know this is painful, but I just wanted you to know that she never really cared about you. I'm sorry it had to end this way. The words hit me like a slap across the face. She never really cared about you. That hurt more than anything. But even as the pain surged inside me, I felt something else. A fire, a determination. This was the moment I had to make a choice. I had to stop wallowing in the misery of betrayal and take control of my own future. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I wasn't going to let her destroy everything I had worked for. If she wanted to walk away, then let her. But I would rebuild. I would find myself again. And this time, I wouldn't make the same mistakes. I walked for what felt like hours, the cold night air biting at my skin, but it felt strangely cleansing. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I was finally breaking free of the shackles that had been holding me down. I didn't need her. I didn't need someone who would treat me like this. I deserved better. I was better than this. When I finally returned home, I didn't feel defeated. I felt resolute. The pain was still there, but it wasn't going to define me. I wasn't going to let her betrayal control my life any longer. The next day, I called a lawyer. I didn't want to drag this out. I didn't want to waste another second trying to salvage something that was already gone. Emily had made her choice, and now it was time for me to make mine. I was done, but I would come out of this stronger. The following days felt like a blur. My mind was still reeling from everything Emily had done, but there was no time to dwell on it. I had made a choice. I wasn't going to let her destroy me. I was going to fight for what I deserved. This wasn't just about a marriage falling apart. It was about reclaiming my life. The first step was calling a lawyer. It wasn't something I had ever thought I'd do, but I knew I couldn't navigate this alone. I couldn't let her get away with treating me like I was nothing. I needed someone who could guide me through this process, someone who could help me make sense of the mess she had left behind. The lawyer I spoke to was a no-nonsense kind of guy. He didn't waste time with pleasantries. "I can tell you're hurting, but right now, you need to focus on what's in front of you," he said, his voice calm but firm. "This isn't just about emotions. It's about securing your future. You need to protect yourself and your assets." At that moment, the reality of the situation really sank in. This wasn't just about healing from betrayal. It was about securing everything I had worked for: my money, my career, my life. Emily had already made her choices, and now it was my turn. But as much as I wanted to act out of anger, I knew I couldn't let emotions cloud my judgment. I had to approach this carefully, strategically. The lawyer recommended we file for divorce immediately. It wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. Emily had already proven she wasn't willing to fight for this marriage, so why should I? As I made my way through the process, the weight of everything continued to bear down on me. Every legal document, every form I had to sign, felt like another reminder of what I was losing. But the deeper I got into the paperwork, the more determined I became. I wasn't going to let her take everything from me, not after what she had done. I remember one evening, sitting alone in the apartment. The emptiness in the place was suffocating. The silence that had once been comforting now felt like a constant reminder of everything that had fallen apart. I picked up my phone again and stared at the messages from the unknown number, the man who had told me about the affair. "Are you sure you want to go through with this?" His message read. "You don't deserve this, man. I'm sorry it had to come to this." I sighed, feeling the weight of everything in those words. He didn't know everything, though. He didn't know what it was like to wake up every day, thinking your marriage is built on trust, only to find out it's all a lie. The betrayal wasn't just about the affair, it was about the complete disregard for everything we had shared. The time, the memories, the promises. I couldn't just walk away from that. I couldn't let her walk away from everything we had built and leave me with nothing. But as the days went by, Emily's presence seemed to fade more and more. She didn't call. She didn't text. It was as if I didn't exist to her anymore. She was gone physically, emotionally, and mentally, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized that this wasn't just a chapter closing in my life. This was a whole new beginning. The divorce papers were filed, and the ball was in our court. I had done everything I could to protect myself and my future. Now, it was her turn to decide how to move forward. But what did she have left? She had chosen him. She had made her decision. In the meantime, I focused on myself. I started working out more, something I had neglected during our relationship. I spent time with friends I had lost touch with, people who actually cared about me, people who respected me for who I was, not for the money I made or the life I provided. It was hard at first, but slowly, I began to feel like myself again. It wasn't just about healing, it was about rediscovering who I was outside of my marriage. And that was the hardest part, letting go of the life I thought I had, the identity I had built around her and our relationship. But as time passed, I realized that I was stronger than I had given myself credit for. It wasn't just about revenge. It wasn't about making her feel the same pain I had. It was about reclaiming my power. I had been in the dark for so long, blind to the lies, but now I saw clearly. I could see what I was worth. I could see that I didn't need her to define who I was. A week after filing for divorce, Emily finally reached out. It wasn't a call. It wasn't a heartfelt apology. It was a simple message. I want to meet. We need to talk about this. I didn't know how to feel. A part of me wanted to pick up the phone, to hear her side, to hear what she had to say. But the other part of me knew that nothing she said would change anything. The damage had been done. Instead of replying immediately, I took a few hours to think about it. I wasn't doing this for closure. I wasn't doing this to get answers. I was doing this to take control of the situation once and for all. When I finally replied, it was short and to the point. I don't think we have anything left to talk about. And that was it. No more lies. No more drama. No more pretending that things were salvageable. The decision was made, and there was no going back. I blocked her number. I blocked him. And just like that, I began the slow process of moving on. Not for anyone else's sake, but for mine. It had been a few weeks since Emily's last attempt to contact me, and things had settled into a routine. The initial pain, the shock, the anger, those emotions had all started to subside. The divorce was underway, the legalities were being handled, and all I had to do now was wait for the inevitable conclusion. But waiting wasn't easy. I spent most of my time focusing on work, though it felt different now. The usual enthusiasm I had for my YouTube channel wasn't there. I was still getting views, still making money, but everything felt hollow. It wasn't just the divorce or the betrayal, it was the realization that I had built so much of my identity around my success, my ability to provide, and my image of a perfect life with Emily. And now, none of that mattered. In the absence of her, I felt a strange emptiness, a void I hadn't noticed before. And as much as I tried to fill it with work or distractions, I realized that I needed something more. I needed to reconnect with myself, not the version of me that was tied to her or the version of me that was consumed by ambition. I needed to rediscover who I was when I wasn't trying to be someone else's idea of perfect. One afternoon, after another long day of work, I took a break. I was walking through the city, my mind racing with thoughts I couldn't quite silence. I passed by a small park near my apartment, and something made me stop. I sat on one of the benches and just breathed for a while. It was quiet. The birds were chirping, and a few people jogged past, smiling and waving at friends. It was so simple, so peaceful, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of calm inside me. I had spent so long chasing after things, money, success, approval, thinking they would bring me happiness. But none of it had truly fulfilled me. I had been living for someone else's expectations, not for myself. It was a realization that both hurt and freed me. I knew it wasn't going to be easy to let go of the life I thought I wanted, but I also knew that if I didn't let go, I would remain stuck. This was my chance to redefine everything, my career, my relationships, my sense of self-worth. And that started with forgiveness. Not for Emily, but for myself. Forgiveness was a strange concept. For weeks, I couldn't understand why people always said it was important. Forgive and move on. At first, I thought it was just a cliché, something people said to make themselves feel better. But now, I understood. I didn't need to forgive Emily to let her off the hook. I needed to forgive myself for being blind to the truth, for putting so much trust in someone who didn't deserve it. I needed to forgive myself for allowing myself to be so caught up in a life that wasn't truly mine. I started small. I reached out to an old friend, someone I hadn't spoken to in a long time. We used to spend hours talking about everything, life, dreams, struggles. I needed that connection again, the reminder that I wasn't alone in this. We met for coffee the next day, and it was like no time had passed. It felt good to talk, to laugh, to just be myself without all the baggage I had been carrying around. From there, things started to shift. I joined a gym and made time for it every day. Not because I wanted to look good for anyone else, but because I needed to rebuild my body, my mind, my life. I wanted to feel strong again, to feel like I had control over something, even if it was just my own health. I also started meditating, something I had always dismissed as not for me. It was difficult at first, my mind raced, I couldn't focus. But over time, I began to notice small changes. I started to feel more present in the moment, more at peace with myself. The anger and resentment that had once consumed me began to fade, replaced by a quiet clarity. I wasn't angry at Emily anymore. I wasn't angry at the world. I was angry at myself for letting things get this far without paying attention to what truly mattered. And slowly, the peace started to settle in. But there were still tough moments. There were nights when the loneliness hit hard, when the silence of the apartment felt too much to bear. I would lie awake, thinking about the life we had shared, the moments we had created, wondering if it had all been a lie from the start. But I reminded myself that I had made the right choice. It wasn't just about the betrayal, it was about the fact that I deserved more than a life built on lies. I had invested so much of myself in that relationship, but I couldn't continue to invest in someone who had chosen to walk away. I wasn't going to chase her, wasn't going to beg for something that had already crumbled. I began to explore new passions, things I had pushed aside for too long. Photography, travel, writing, things that made me feel alive again, things that were just for me. Slowly but surely, I started to rebuild. I was still hurt, still scarred, but I was also stronger, more aware of who I was and what I wanted from life. The more I healed, the more I realized how much better my life was without her. It wasn't just about the betrayal anymore. It was about taking back control. I didn't need her validation. I didn't need anyone to tell me what I was worth. I was enough on my own. And with each passing day, the weight of the past began to lift. I was moving forward, not for her, not for anyone else, but for me. And that was the most important thing of all. The months following the divorce were a whirlwind of self-discovery. I had started to find myself again, piece by piece, like a puzzle I thought was lost. Each day felt like a step forward, even if sometimes the pain crept back in, even if moments of weakness lingered longer than I wanted. But I had finally accepted something that took me far too long to realize. This was the life I had now. I couldn't change the past, but I could shape the future. I began traveling more, exploring places I had always dreamed of seeing but never had the time for when I was with Emily. The freedom was exhilarating. I could do whatever I wanted without answering to anyone, without being responsible for someone else's happiness. It was liberating, but also a little lonely. Sometimes, when I sat in a cafe overlooking a new city, the reality of being alone would hit me hard. The memories of Emily, of us together, were still there. But I tried not to dwell on them. I had learned that the best way to move forward was to keep pushing ahead, to keep creating new memories, new experiences. It wasn't all easy, though. There were days when I would wake up in the middle of the night, heart racing, wondering if I was truly okay. The silence in my apartment felt deafening some days. There were nights I couldn't help but replay everything, her lies, her betrayal, the way she had walked out without so much as a glance back. And it still stung. It still hurt to know that someone I had loved so deeply could do something so heartless. But I refused to let it control me anymore. I had my work, my growing sense of self, and I had learned to be comfortable with the solitude. It was in the quiet moments that I found clarity. I learned that I didn't need someone else to complete me. I had been enough all along, and that was a realization I wasn't going to let go of. One night, after a particularly challenging day, I was sitting on my couch, scrolling through social media, when I saw a post that made my stomach drop. It was from Emily. She had posted a picture of herself with someone else, someone new. The man wasn't a stranger to me. It was the guy she had been seeing during our marriage, the one I had caught texting her, the one who she had called her boy toy. The photo showed them laughing, close, looking entirely too happy. And in that moment, I felt something I wasn't expecting, relief. The pit in my stomach wasn't a sign of jealousy. It wasn't even anger. It was simply relief. I could see the truth now, clear as day. She had moved on. She had found someone else, just like she had planned. And in that moment, I knew that whatever I felt about her, whatever pain I had been carrying around, didn't matter anymore. I was free. I didn't feel the need to dwell on it, to dig into their relationship, or to feel any sort of vindication. She had chosen her path, and I had chosen mine. And in that choice, I had come out stronger. The past was just that, the past. It no longer had the power to shape my present. With the relief came a new sense of direction. I had never felt more alive than I did in that moment. I had the whole world in front of me, and it was mine to conquer. I had done the hard work of healing, of rebuilding, and now I was ready to take on whatever came next. A week later, I was on a plane to Bali. It was a place I had always wanted to visit, a place I thought I'd share with Emily. But I wasn't going to let the ghosts of the past keep me from living the life I deserved. I had already spent too much time locked in a relationship that had drained me, and I wasn't going to let it keep me from experiencing the world anymore. As the plane took off, I gazed out the window, watching the city fade away beneath me. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing. I was in control of it now. No longer bound by the shackles of betrayal, I was free to live on my own terms. And that, in itself, felt like the greatest gift. In Bali, I immersed myself in the culture, the beauty, and the tranquility. I hiked up volcanoes, swam in crystal-clear waters, and spent my evenings sitting on the beach, watching the sunset with a sense of peace that I hadn't known in years. The days were filled with new experiences, new people, and a renewed sense of purpose. For the first time in months, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. There were no more questions about the past. No more wondering what went wrong or why things ended the way they did. Emily was in the past, and that's where she belonged. By the time I returned home, I was a different person. I had grown, learned, and experienced things I never would have if I had stayed in the same place, emotionally and physically. I was no longer the man who was trapped by the past, by betrayal, or by the fear of starting over. I was the man who had found peace within himself. I picked up the phone to call my lawyer, finalizing the last steps of the divorce, officially closing that chapter. It was time to move forward, to step into the life I was meant to live. And as I hung up the phone, I realized that for the first time in a long time, I was genuinely excited about the future. The man who had once been broken, consumed by the weight of betrayal, was now a man who was rebuilding his life stronger, more aware of his worth, and ready for whatever came next.